Kia ora everyone, welcome to my annual LEGO Oscars video where I attempt to recreate the nominees in LEGO form. And like most previous years for me, 2024 was a great standout year for film, and as usual, only a handful of my favorites actually made it into the awards ceremony, but the ones that did make it are pretty stellar, and that also means I get to make LEGO figures based on a wide variety of Best Picture noms. What you see here on screen is every figure that I use for this here custom series. There's a handful of parts that are exclusives unfortunately, but a majority of the selection here can be found on many different figures across many different releases. And my PRS customs here are by no means perfect, and if you have any suggestions on improvements, you should let me know down below. A very quick disclaimer, unfortunately this is another year in which I haven't been able to see every Best Picture nominee. Only 9 out of the 10 Best Picture noms are featured here. I'm Still Here is unfortunately the one that is missing because it's the film that hasn't released in my country yet as of recording this video. I try to only cover the ones that I have seen, so to make up for this, I've got 3 extra figures here from 3 other nominees. If you enjoyed this video, liking and subscribing here does help to support this channel in making more videos like this one in the future. There are timestamps provided down below to go to your favorite films. Let's get started.
Okay, here are the 10 nominees for Best Motion Picture of the Year.
Here they are.
Here we go.
Anora, Alex Coco, Samantha Kwan, and Sean Baker, producers.
Boom.
Anora was huge this year. Sean Baker and Mikey Madison really leapt onto the scene with this release, taking home the Palme d'Or back in May, and it was just a cultural buzz from there on until this weekend's award ceremony, where we'll see what happens at the Oscars. For Annie here, I have Supergirl from the LEGO DC Superheroes line, Sugi from the Star Wars The Clone Wars sets, Tonks from the Harry Potter collectible minifigure series, and then also from a collectible minifigure series, Mulan. I start off with Supergirl's legs, I then use Sugi's torso and I remove the gloves there, and I replace them with Supergirl's hands, followed by Tonk's headpiece, and then we end things off with Mulan's hairpiece. Annie was really tricky to get right here, and I don't think everything here on screen is perfect. The colours not matching for the torso and legs is what bothers me the most. The poster that I was basing this on is on screen right now, and one of the issues that I found early on here was that Annie wears many different outfits in the movie, so there never felt like a definitive one costume that would make her instantly recognizable, and so the ones that came close to me being things like the Vegas attire, the blue dress and black jacket, or the red dress from the club scene were all really difficult to replicate in LEGO, but I have to say, I do think the face and hair work really well for Mikey Madison's likeness.
The Brutalist. Nominees to be determined.
Now from here on there's going to be a few nominees to be determined. It was a really strange announcement stream. The Brutalist was a sprawling epic that we don't get to see too often in cinemas these days. A hefty and exhilarating runtime with a built-in intermission, The Brutalist is one of the more memorable nominees I think I've seen in quite some time. Crazy when the score also suddenly switched on us to 80s techno club music. For Laszlo here, I'm using the Walt Disney figure from the Disney camera, Ross from the Friends TV show Apartment set, and Duke Leto Atreides from the Dune Ornithopter. We start off with the suit from Walt, we remove all of those key Disney features, Laszlo is going to be using Ross's appearance there, and we finish things off with the hairpiece from Duke Leto Atreides. Adrian Brody has a very distinct and instantly recognizable face that just looks like a guy from a period piece setting. I think the expression there works pretty well for Brody, and the simple selection of a plain suit and hairpiece works really well for me. He may be a simple recreation here, but I think he's also one of the more accurate depictions.
A complete unknown, Fred Berger, James Mangold, and Alex Heineman, producers.
Now I tell a lie before, when I recorded this video I hadn't yet seen A Complete Unknown, but as of uploading this, I have now in fact seen A Complete Unknown, the last movie that released in my country for the awards season. Timothée Chalamet has a pretty incredible career so far, and still so early on as well. This won't be the only time I make a figure based on a Timothée Chalamet character in this one video. I'm using Harry Potter from the CMF series. This figure here is one of the most universally used figures for my videos, Indiana Jones from the remake sets from 2023, another figure who has likely appeared in most of these videos. I've got Frodo from the original 2012 LEGO Lord of the Rings releases, and then finally we have Phoebe from the Friends Central Perk set. The first thing I do is I take the Harry Potter figure, and like every single other figure I've used him for, I just keep his jeans. From Indiana Jones, I apply that torso, and I keep only the torso. Frodo there has the exact headpiece and hairpiece that I'm wanting to see, and then to really sell that image of Bob Dylan, I'm using Phoebe's guitar as his accessory. Bob Dylan here was really weird because I had to keep going back and forth on reminding myself that I'm trying to make Timothée Chalamet looking like Bob Dylan, not actually Bob Dylan. People online have plenty of options out there for making your own custom Dylan figure, and I think that this here works as a pretty good in-between for both artists combined.
Conclave, Tessa Ross, Juliette Howell, and Michael A. Jackman, producers.
Conclave was crazy, and thematically speaking, it would be amazing if this is the one that wins Best Picture. With all these recent controversies, anything could happen honestly. For Lawrence there, I'm going to be using Zaz Tam from the Dungeons & Dragons CMF series, Cassidy from the LEGO Overwatch line, Gandalf, but this time I'm using the new Rivendell design, and finally Alfred from the LEGO Batman movie sets, which is a very fun ironic usage there. Starting with Tam, I take all that scary stuff away, I swap that torso around, and then I remove all that flesh stuff. Cassidy's poncho there is going to be used for robes, and then I use all of the Gandalf features there, which consists of his head and hands. Finally, that bald cap from Alfred to finish off Lawrence. He was a really fun one to do because essentially I had to make someone from the church in LEGO. LEGO have this crazy stance on not making anything based on religion or the church or anything, but only within the modern sense. Dungeons & Dragons characters are a-okay in LEGO's books, and I thank them for it too, because it gave me a really great base foundation to work with. Making a cardinal from scratch was what made this so interesting for me, and I think the torso design really came together in the end there.
Dune Part II, Mary Parent, Cale Boyder, Tanya LaPointe, and Denis Villeneuve, producers.
Dune Part II appears to have been the big blockbuster release of 2024 that most people thought would be a lock for some kind of an award sweep. Dune Part II still netted a good 5 nominations in total, but the film has received less nominations here than the first movie received as wins, obviously saving it all for Dune Messiah. Come on, it's not copium or anything. Now Paul Atreides here I actually already made in a video based on making custom purists from Dune Part 2. You can watch that video here if you'd like, but Warner Brothers did claim my video because they're pricks who like to abuse their power, so I'm not really happy about that video anymore. This time I'm going to be using a brand new hairpiece though, which I've seen others online use as well. So we have here Liet Kynes from the Dune Ornithopter set, Reaper from the Overwatch line, Paul himself also from the Dune Ornithopter set, and then this driver guy from LEGO City. I keep Liet Kynes and I repurpose the torso, legs, and the cape, a very cool cape piece. From Reaper I actually take his cape as well, and I add it onto the one that we already have, since he wears loads of cool robes attire in the film. And just to keep things simple, I'm going to be using the head that LEGO have already given us, which isn't really accurate anyway, and then you can keep that hairpiece provided, or you can use a different one. It's funny because the BTS hairpiece to me looks a lot more like Paul from Dune Part 1 rather than Part 2. The most obvious thing here missing are those blue eyes. LEGO didn't make a sequel set for the Ornithopter, so we don't have a blue-eyed boy for our display, but this here was the first time I've ever repurposed something that I already made earlier in the same year.
Emilia Pérez, nominees to be determined, producers.
I mean, holy shit, dude, where do you even start with this one? Voiced as being considered the villain of the season the moment it hit Netflix, and every single month since that release, it's just been worse and worse for the discourse online. Emilia Pérez has somehow managed to piss off everyone from every given side of an audience. From this long list of controversy, I decided to just pick Rita, Zoe Saldana's character, and base it off of this promotional image alone. Out of all the movies included here, I probably should have left this one off the list out of any of them, but it is a pretty historic time to be in right now. It's a brand new crash for this generation of Oscar lovers. It seems to be that we'll get one like this every decade. So I have here Shaggy from the Scooby-Doo line, Elrond from the new Rivendell set, I'm using the Zendaya MJ figure from the Spider-Man releases, and then Agent Trace from the Agents line. So we start off with Shaggy, and I just borrow his legs only. From Elrond there, I take the torso and I swap away those hands and headpiece. I replace them with the MJ likeness and I swap over that hairpiece. If I learned anything from this figure, it's that the contrast of having a dark red suit and a white shirt is so aesthetically pleasing to me that it really annoys me that LEGO don't have torsos like that in their inventory. We've got bright red jackets and white shirts at the very least though. I think I made do with what I had available, and I think it works close enough to what I was wanting. Man, this thing just seemed like a sure thing with all the awards contention, but now it seems like the movie is just a disgraced inclusion. We will have to wait and see what happens at the awards ceremony. I am very intrigued by all of this.
Nickel Boys, nominees to be determined.
PGA.
And now we're going to enter the dual entries there, 2 minifigures each for these final films. The Nickel Boys is just amazing. I knew nothing about this going in, and I was completely enthralled from start to finish. I think this is probably going to be the sleeper hit for the year. I'm expecting and really hoping that the Nickel Boys is one of the more talked about film releases years down the line when we look back at this year's Oscars. I decided to make both Turner and Elwood there, using various figures from various lines. I've got Robin from the LEGO Batman movie, Finn from the Force Awakens LEGO sets, and then Short Round from Indiana Jones. We then also have Killmonger from the Black Panther movie sets, the Newspaper Boy from the CMF series, a Ninjago Scientist also from the CMF series, and then Oscar from the Office LEGO Ideas set. So Elwood first, I'm going to be using Robin's legs there because he features some jean patterns that I like. I'm using Short Round for the torso, which is close enough to the era accurate period. It's not 100% though, mind you, but more on that later. And then I remove Short Round's parts and I replace them with Finn. For Turner, we start out with Killmonger and we take just his legs for the pants with the simplistic printing, the Newspaper Boy for his torso, and we remove all those extras that we don't need. And I'm replacing the Newspaper Boy's arms with the Scientist so they appear as just plain white sleeves. I remove those hands and I swap them with Oscar's as well as his headpiece and his hairpiece. These guys were pretty tricky to nail down. In the movie, they both wear the same type of clothes, being a basic uniform because they're living in a reformatory school. I couldn't find the exact style of uniform I wanted to use here, let alone double so that I could actually make both of them. Now occasionally in the movie they will wear civilian clothes, and I really wanted to make these guys here, so I tried my best attempts at making 60s styled clothing from that South era of American history. The movie there is amazing, I say again, a standout compared to some of these other nominees. And I think they both came out pretty well. Short Round does feature some flesh printing that shows on his torso there, but it's pretty tricky to find period accurate clothing in LEGO that can be used for anyone, any color. The parts that I did have on hand, I think they work ultimately for the series.
The substance, nominees to be determined.
The substance is awesome, and it's my current frontrunner for everything that it's been nominated in, especially for actor and director. These were the two that I wanted to make the most here from the Oscar noms, Sue and Elizabeth, and I knew that it would be the most fun one to do. I do use quite a few figures here for these two, all using pretty specific pieces as well. For Sue, I'm using Harry Potter, but released from way back, the original Goblet of Fire releases, and Professor Umbridge from maybe the 2019 or 2020 release sets. Hermione there I think is from the Clock Tower Hogwarts Castle set, it's from the Yule Ball one, lots of Harry Potter figures here, Elsa from the LEGO Disney CMF series, and finally Rey from the Rise of Skywalker releases. And I think what might be for the first time ever on a custom minifigure series video, I'm going to take the Harry Potter figure and leave just his individual legs, removing that hip piece entirely. Dolores Umbridge is here to only provide a hip piece for us. Then in one fell swoop, nice and fast here, remove Hermione's head, replace it with Elsa's, swap the hair pieces around, and then apply the body to the legs. For Elizabeth Sparkle, I have here Firestar from the Spider-Man Daily Bugle set, the Eraser from the LEGO Batman CMF series, Edna Mode from the Disney CMF series 2, Strad Von Zarevich from the Dungeons & Dragons line, and then Anna from the Disney CMF series as well. Both Frozen sisters are used here for the substance characters. From Firestar, we use just her legs, and then we add the torso from the Eraserhead guy, who I had holding a black tile, but I'm just going to put that off to the side there and come back later. Remove that headpiece and those arms to get rid of those lines that we had all over them, and I actually replaced those arms with Firestar, who happens to feature the exact same colored hands that we need for gloves. Apply Edna Mode's headpiece there, remove those goofy glasses and hairpiece, and I swap the expressions around. I use the vampire hairpiece there, and finally from Anna, we simply take the lantern that she has, removing that brick from inside and placing a cap on top. We now have our substance accessory, and together we have Elizabeth and Sue. I think these two are my favorites from the line. For obvious reasons, LEGO don't feature many parts that can be used for making characters like Annie from Anora or Sue from The Substance in your traditional sense, so I had to go through making some newer designs, which made the video more interesting for me personally. I think the outfits here match the movie's depictions in a fun makeshift kind of way. Ultimately, I'm really satisfied with how both of these figures came out.
And Wicked, Mark Platt, producer.
This one here was also a fun one to try and attempt, and likely for many of you watching, the reason why you're here. Wicked received loads of award nominations, and it was getting all kinds of big buzz around the award season. I recently looked at that really great looking Emerald City set as the movie was releasing, and apparently those sets were big enough that we are going to be getting more when Wicked 2 releases later on. A small number of figures are used here to create Elphaba and Glinda, and all fairly recent releases as well. For Elphaba, I'm using the Wicked Witch figure from the Batman movie line, but the Dimensions release would work here as well. I then also featured the real official Wicked Elphaba figure released there as a mini doll, and then She-Hulk from the comics release of the Marvel sets, but the Semi-Variant of her would work here as well. I take the Wicked Witch figure and I actually remove the extras and the headpiece there. Similar to the official Paul Atreides release, I'm fixing the style of figure here to accurately match the movie. From the mini doll, I'm applying that amazing cape piece, and I'm keeping the hat hair piece off to the side there. We then apply the She-Hulk headpiece, and I swap the hair over for that hat piece. For Glinda, we have here Miss Piggy from the Muppets CMF series, Aurora from the Disney CMF series, and then the Glinda mini doll figure herself from the exact same set that we got the Elphaba mini doll from. From Miss Piggy, I take the torso and the legs, we then remove the headpiece and the arms from her. From Aurora, we're taking those arms and headpiece and swapping the expressions around, and then we give her the official Glinda figure hairpiece, and now we have our Wicked figures. I think that these two are also two of my favorites from this series, though granted they do use parts that already exist from officially released Elphaba and Glinda figures, so it kind of feels like a cheap win to me, you know. Elphaba there I think looks really good in this minifigure style, though it looks a lot more like Idina Menzel than it does Cynthia to me. The cape and hat hairpiece I praised in my video set review, amazing parts to have included in that set. Glinda was really exciting because she doesn't yet exist as a minifigure period, so I had no base foundation to work off of. It reminded me of the trouble that I had last year when I was trying to make Barbie, trying to find these perfect pink pieces. I think the outfit here works for the Shiz University look, where the official set instead released more of a Wizard of Oz-like appearance. I think that the two together work really well. And that there is my showcase for the 97th Annual Academy Awards. This is the third time I believe we've done this now on the channel. It's always been fun to make minifigures based around works that LEGO would never touch, though funny to say that now because in this year, we had two properties with ties to LEGO nominated for Best Picture. If you enjoyed this Oscar showcase video, liking the video here and subscribing to the channel does help to support more videos like this one in the future. Thanks for watching everyone, ka kite anō, see you all next time.